In this particular lecture, let's learn how we could set up Tailwind for our Django project. So whenever you have to set up Tailwind for your Django project, you first have to go ahead and download Node.js and install it on your machine. And the reason why you need Node.js is because typically for installing Tailwind, we need npm, which is Node Package Manager. So I already have Node installed on my machine, so I'm not going to repeat the same steps one more time. But if you do not have Node installed, then I would highly recommend that you go ahead and install Node.js. The setup is quite simple. You just have to visit Node.js's official website and download the long-term supported version, and you should be good to go. So once Node is installed, you then have to go into the terminal, and you have to first stop the server, and then you need to go into the directory, which is nothing but the current project directory, which is in this case my site. So we are already in there, but still to demonstrate in a much more better way, I'll actually go back to the desktop and I'll show you how to navigate from there to the main project directory. So right now we are into the desktop. So first of all, you have to go into the expense tracker, and the expense tracker is actually the container which actually contains the virtual environment as well as the Django project. But in there, we actually have to go inside our actual project directory, which is in this case my site. So I would type in cd my site. And now once we are into this my site directory, here, first of all, we actually need to set up a package.json file. Now this package.json file is going to contain all the JavaScript dependencies which our project uses. So in order to create a package.json file here, you need to say npm init-y, and you need to do this even before you start installing Tailwind. So hit enter, and that's actually going to create a package.json file for you. So if you open up VS Code, you should be able to see that inside my site now we have this package.json file. Now once we have this file, we could finally go ahead and install Tailwind. So here, in order to install Tailwind, you need to say npm install Tailwind CSS, and here you need to mention the version as 2.2.16. Now there might be latest Tailwind versions out there, but I would highly recommend that you stick with this version. Just because a newer version is available doesn't mean that the older one is rendered useless. So go ahead and install the exact same version which is specified here, or else you might face some issues while using Tailwind. So once you go ahead and install Tailwind, if you go back to the package.json file, you should be able to see that Tailwind is now added as a dependency here. After Tailwind has been installed, we now need to add it to our Django project. And the way in which we add it is that you first go inside your app, which is my app, and in there you need to create a new folder called as static, and in static again create a new folder which is going to be called as my app. And the reason why we do this is because Tailwind works on the basis of a CSS file which is generated, and typically in Django you always save the CSS files into static directories. Therefore we create a directory structure for static. And in here now I'm actually going to create a new file, and I'm going to name it as source.css. And the reason why I'm naming this file as source is because this file is going to contain the source code, and Tailwind is actually going to make use of this file and create an output file which is going to be a CSS file which is going to contain the actual CSS classes which Tailwind uses. So in this particular file, we are going to add some Tailwind directives, and these are going to be then translated or compiled into actual CSS classes. So I would add an add Tailwind base, add Tailwind utilities, and then finally let's add Tailwind components. Once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So now we need to take this source file and we want to generate an output file out of it using Tailwind. And in order to do that, you have to execute a command. But you cannot execute that command directly. Instead, you have to specify that command in the package.json file inside this script tag which we have. So in here, we will create another command or script called as build. And this particular command is going to say something like Tailwind build, and we want to build from the source file. And the source file is currently present inside the my app. So I would say my app /static/ my app, and the name of the file is nothing but source.css. And then we want to say that we want to generate an output. Therefore I would type in -o, and the output should be generated inside the same directory which we have. So therefore I will type in my app, static my app, and let's say the name of the source file needs to be styles.css. So I'll add that up over here and save this. So now once we have this script written up over here, we actually now have to run the script so that the output file is generated. So in order to run that script, I need to go back to the terminal and say npm run build, hit enter. It's going to take a while for that file to generate, and as you can see now, the file is generated in around 4 seconds. So if you take a look at this, now you have a newly created file called as style.css. And if you actually open it up, as you can see, it contains a whole bunch of Tailwind classes which we could use. Now once this file is generated, now we have to link this particular file to the index.html, and as soon as we do that, the styling of this particular page is going to change. So let's do that real quick. So here I'll say the link rel is going to be style sheet. The href for this one is going to be static my app / styles.css. And as soon as we do that, and if we run the server now, let's see what happens. So the server is now up and running. If I go back here, hit refresh. Okay, we do get an error because we forgot to load the static tag. So whenever you're using static here or the static keyword, you always need to load that particular tag at the top. So if I say load static, this should fix that error. So if I go back here, hit refresh, as you can see now the styling of this particular web page has changed, and now it says that this is a template, but you'll be able to see that the font here is different, which means that the Tailwind styling has now been applied to this index.html page. But now the problem here is that if you create multiple templates here, you will have to include the same link in all of the files which you have. And in order to solve that issue, a better way to handle this is that you create a base template and include this link in the base template, and then make the index.html inherit from that base template. So let's go ahead and generate the base template in the next lecture.